My dad's side family for Thanksgiving.
My parents had practically begged me to house sit for my grandparents while they went on vacation. It wasn't that I minded. I actually loved their house. Perched on the hillside of a mountain in one of the nicer parts of LA, their place had an eerie sense of solitude. It wasn't a mansion by any means, but they were loaded, which always made me wonder why they lived so modestly. I had a school project for spring break, a short film assignment, so I brought my old camcorder along, thinking I could record some creative shots. Their dog, Locust, followed me as I wandered outside, capturing clips of the sunset, the rustling trees, even a distant coyote howling. That's when I heard it. A strange sound coming from inside the house. It was faint, almost like something shuffling behind the walls. Locust whined. I turned the camcorder on and followed the sound to a closet in the hallway. That's when I noticed it. A small gap where the walls didn't fully meet. A light draft brushed against my skin. Curious, I wedged my fingers into the slit and pried it open, revealing a dark, narrow staircase leading downward. Camcorder in one hand, flashlight in the other. I hesitated, staring down into the abyss. A cold draft blew up from below, carrying a scent I couldn't quite place. Something stale, untouched for years. My fingers gripped the wooden frame of the hidden door as I took my first step down. The wood beneath my feet creaked, groaning as if it hadn't been walked on in decades. With each step, the temperature seemed to drop. My breathing echoed, bouncing back at me in unnatural ways. The walls began to change, shifting from familiar wood and drywall to cold, unpainted concrete. Then, further still, metal walls, rusted and streaked with grime. I reached out and touched one. It was damp. Then came the wallpaper, a nauseating yellow design, its patterns curling at the edges. My flashlight flickered, the weak beam barely illuminating the doorway ahead. Before I could react, the floor beneath me collapsed. The air was knocked from my lungs as I tumbled down a smooth, almost polished chute, my arms scraping against the surface as I tried to stop my descent. My camcorder smacked against my chest, and before I knew it, I landed hard on something soft. Dazed, I sat up, heart pounding. I was in a classroom. Desks were scattered haphazardly across the room, their metal legs screeching slightly when I moved. A whiteboard at the front had smudges of writing, but the words were gibberish. Letters jumbled together, shifting when I tried to focus. I swallowed hard and walked toward the only exit, a single wooden door. When I opened it, I expected to see a hallway, maybe stairs leading back up. Instead, I was met with another room, this time an abandoned office space. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, the hum loud and grating. Old cubicles lined the room, some overturned, paper strewn across the stained carpet. A water cooler stood in the corner, filled with black, inky liquid. I backed away and tried another door. It looked like a small playground. There was a slide, some swings, and a bench under a poorly lit streetlight. I walked through this playground, kicking debris from under my feet as I pushed the swing. The swing made a rustic screech sound like it hasn't been used in ages. My breathing grew uneven as I turned and tried another door. A hospital hallway. The floors gleamed under the bright white lights, but no signs of life were anywhere. Wheelchairs sat abandoned. IV stands stood eerily still, their bags half full of God knows what. The air smelled sterile, but underneath it, something rancid. Then, I heard something. Music. A low, distant melody. Faint. distorted. It made my stomach turn, like a warped lullaby played on a broken record. I followed it, stepping through countless doorways, each leading to a different, impossible place. An empty diner, a children's playroom, a dimly lit subway station with no tracks. Finally, I entered a room filled with speakers. They lined the walls, stacked in strange, chaotic arrangements. Wires snaked across the floor, leading to a setup in the farthest corner. My camcorder caught the blinking red lights of the amplifiers, their power hum vibrating through my feet. I traced the wires, hoping, desperately, that I could use this to call for help. A microphone sat on a table. I grabbed it and spoke. "Hello? Can anyone hear me? I need help. I'm trapped." Silence. Then, the music stopped. I heard a long breath right behind me. I spun around. A figure stood in the center of the room. It looked human, but it wasn't. Its limbs were too long, its head slightly tilted at an unnatural angle. Its skin, if it was skin, was smooth, featureless. It twitched. Then it lunged. I bolted, ducking under wires, vaulting over overturned speakers. My heart hammered as I grabbed whatever I could. Small amps, stands, cables, and threw them behind me, hearing them crash against the thing in pursuit. It didn't slow down. I slid under a table, scrambled to my feet, and burst through another door. The room beyond was cluttered with furniture, armchairs, tables, bookshelves stacked haphazardly. I shoved a couch against the door, then pulled a dresser in front of it. Silence. My breath came in ragged gasps. I backed away, scanning the dimly lit space. The walls were lined with bookshelves, but the books had no titles, just blank spines, endless rows of them. A grandfather clock in the corner ticked erratically, the hands spinning too fast, then stopping suddenly. I turned, searching for another exit. A single door stood on the far end. I approached it cautiously, pressing my ear against the wood. Nothing. Slowly, I turned the knob. The door opened to another hallway. Then I heard it. A deep, echoing thump, followed by another. And then, a scream. It wasn't human. It rattled my bones, shaking the very walls around me. Darkness consumed me. Breathing heavily, I turned and started walking towards the only door that said exit on it. You wouldn't believe it, but another hallway. But this one was completely dark. I walked slowly towards the dark hallway, a dim red light glowing at the end. As I got closer, I realized it was illuminating a bridge, one that stretched across a seemingly endless void. On both sides of the bridge, I saw towering buildings, skyscrapers that extended into the abyss, their windows dark and empty. The architecture was nonsensical, with staircases leading to nowhere, balconies suspended over nothing, and entire sections that seemed to shift when I looked away. I forced myself to move forward. My footsteps echoed, the sound swallowed by the vast emptiness around me. At the other end of the bridge, I found a doorway leading into yet another room. The final room I reached was the strangest yet. A house, sitting in the middle of an impossibly large space. The floor was marked with dark stains, streaks that looked eerily like drag marks. Scattered across the ground were old clothes, worn and tattered, some of them stained with a deep red substance. My stomach twisted. I stepped inside the house cautiously. The living room was eerily clean. Too clean. The television was on, but only static filled the screen. A rotary phone sat on a small end table, its cord neatly coiled. Then I heard voices, muffled like they were behind a wall, indistinct but urgent. I turned, trying to pinpoint the source. My fingers hovered over a door frame when a huge thump. The lights shut off. The room was dead silent. The sound of ringing grew in my ears, then running. Rapid, heavy footfalls coming straight for me. I panicked, sprinting up the stairs, slamming a door shut behind me. My back pressed against it, my hands clamped over my ears as the pounding continued. The door rattled, shaking violently as if something massive was trying to break through. Then, the wood splintered. The door exploded inward, and before I could react, something grabbed me. Hands. Cold. Rough. Wrapped around my ankle, yanking me across the floor. My nails scraped against the wood, my screams drowned out by the deafening static still blaring from the television downstairs. I kicked, struggled, fought against the grip, but it was too strong. My camcorder, still recording, captured the blur of movement as I was dragged down the hall. The last thing the camera saw before the battery died. A shadow looming over me. Then, darkness.